We're here at VRIC 2019 in Vancouver, and joining me now is Thomas Atkin of Mammoth Resources. Thomas, tell me a little bit about your company, but let's start with what index are you on and what's your symbol?
So we're MTH, Mammoth is MTH, and we're on the TSXV Venture Exchange.
And you are focused on gold.
We are gold and silver in Mexico in the prolific Sierra Madre, treasure of the Sierra Madre, Humphrey Bogart, the Sierra Madre gold belt, yeah.
It truly is prolific, isn't it?
It is, yeah. There's been, it goes back to colonial times. It's interesting because you can be in the most remote parts of some mountain area and you see some artisanal working that probably dates back to that time, and you just imagine, why would anybody have been there looking for gold at that time? But yeah, it's quite amazing.
Well, it was one of the big reasons why they came to the Americas, wasn't it? To find gold. And it has been producing gold for centuries.
Yep, exactly.
What attracted you to this particular property?
It's just when we first saw it and were introduced to it, it just had all of the hallmarks of a really prolific type of mineralizing geological system. Mm-hmm. It's called the High Sulphidation system, and it just screamed out all of the hallmarks of this system. And this type of system, just in this area, there are multi-million ounce, 2.5, 4.5 million ounce deposits of this type of system, and so it's pretty amazing to just walk the ground and just go, oh my gosh, look at all these things that are indicative of this system, and to see it over such a large area, because it really points to a robust mineralizing system that would put gold in such a large area.
So you actually went out and walked the property then, did you?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And when you start to see some of those tall tale signs in the ground, it tells you there's something there. Did you see that in this region?
Absolutely. So there's one thing, if anyone who knows these systems, is vuggy silica. So it's a type of hydrothermal replacement of the host rock, and it's got this kind of pitted appearance to it, and it's silicious, it's silica rock, and it's just very indicative of these types of systems, and we see that ubiquitously throughout this area.
And it's bubbling up to the surface.
Well, it's right? Indicative of a time when it was bubbling up to the surface.
Yeah.
So,
so it tells you that there's something down there.
It does. The thing I always tell people is, look, there's gold over this large 15 square kilometer footprint, and it didn't fall from the sky. So there's only one place it could come from, and that came from deeper in the earth. And
so the reality is that you're a junior mining company, and you're looking at being able to explore this resource. Where are you right at this moment?
Yeah, so when we first saw the property, it had been drilled by a predecessor company, announced good results. They reported on 10 of 15 drill holes in the first drilling that had ever been done on the property. But it was June of 2008. Fast forward a couple of months, global financial crisis, no ability to sustain their commitment to the project, and so they dropped it. We were introduced to it in 2012, and the land owners, a couple of Mexican prospectors, were $45,000 US due in back taxes. They've been given a 60-day notice, pay or you lose the property. So, had been drilled, good results. We walked the property, sampled some of the areas where they sampled some of the core that existed, so that we could check everything.
And you had access to all of those
data,
cores and all the data, everything.
Okay. Had all that stuff.
Yep.
And so we checked all of that material. Everything looked good. Again, walked the ground, and we were fortunate enough to strike a good deal with really good partners. Like, these guys have been really good. During the lean times, we've amended the agreement on 2 occasions. Mm-hmm. They've stuck with us. They've got a vested interest in the property and the company through shares.
Yep.
So they're terrific partners, and it's gone well.
Where are you at right now?
Well, so we've drilled it. We did some drilling in 2017-18, and we had good, potentially economical grades over 8 of 11 drill holes, and for about 2,500 meters. Our best intersection lengthwise was 125 meters of half a gram of gold. And half a gram of gold is economical in this type of deposit, open pit, heap leach.
Yeah.
We've had some rich intersections, 10 meters or so of a couple of grams, even some up to shorter intercepts of 3.5 to 4%, 4 grams per ton gold, and that so really, really good indications. And our drilling was sporadic over as much as a 4-kilometer strike length. So it's a huge area. I mean, realistically, there are some of these deposits I referenced of a couple of million ounces, 4 million ounces. Their footprint of mineralization is probably about maybe 2 square kilometers at best. We've got mineralization over 15 square kilometers.
Wow.
And so it's a really big area. And we've tested sporadically 4 kilometers of about a 5 to 6 kilometer trend.
And you're getting fairly consistent results.
And we're getting results. I mean, I don't want to say it's like shooting fish in a barrel, but we use geophysics and other surface features to give us a sense of the potential at depth, and we drill these targets. And as I say, we were successful in 8 of 11 drill holes. So that's quite good.
And this is in Tenerife.
In Tenerife, yeah.
Which is where in Mexico?
Yeah, so it's in this.
I mean, you talk about it being in the prolific gold range, but where specifically is Tenerife?
So it's in Chihuahua State, and it's the southwestern portion of Chihuahua State in the Sierra Madre. And so it's kind of interesting. Elevation's about 1,600 meters, and everyone thinks of Mexico hot, you're at the beach. But at that elevation, at this time of year, December, January, it actually will go down to close to freezing or below freezing at night. Warm up to 20 degrees in the summer or in the daytime, but it's pleasant for working at this time of year. And the area it's an area of a strong forest industry, big mature pine trees at that elevation, and mining.
So one of the things that everybody wants to know about is what is the jurisdiction like as far as political stability, resource management? Are you going to run into obstacles that might prevent you from getting permitting and moving forward?
Well, we've been successful in getting permitting without any issue, and that we've got very good relations with the locals. And I don't want to sound like this is something new, but realistically, I mean, simply treating people with respect and just being helpful. So we're not, no individual is paid, but we might do some work if we have a bulldozer. So maybe drill a shallow well so they can accumulate water during the rainy season for irrigating their crops during the dry season. We went out and bought some backpacks and some paper and pens and stuff for the local school and that. So just making a contribution towards the community and treating people with respect, working as partners.
Good community relations. So what's your timeline moving forward there?
Yeah, so we announced on December 21st that we'd signed an option agreement with Sierra Gold. So Sierra Gold is a $1.7 billion market cap company listed on the TSX. And so they're really interested in our property. They're prepared to make a substantial financial commitment to earn an interest in it. And so our geologist today is Monday, the 21st of, so a month since we announced the agreement, the 21st of January, is actually sitting meeting with the Sierra partners today to plan the next stages of the program. So we hope to come out with some news announcing what that is. And that, I mean, I've got a little bit of a sense of it, but they're as eager as we are to start advancing exploration as soon as possible.
So based on the results, they'll be leading the development on this if there's something there that's worth pursuing?
We're working in partnership. So our Vice President of Exploration is working on the project with them, and that is part of the agreement. And so we're collaborating with them to devise an exploration program and a team approach in that. So we've got our historical exploration. They've got all of our technical information and data, and they've got their expertise, and that's expertise that we value. So now we're working together to pull that together and to advance the project forward. And having the fortune that they're spending money.
And so let's address the elephant in the room, which is, of course, the price of gold. It has not been a stellar market for the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
What makes you think that now is the time that we should be moving forward?
Well, look at, when I was out talking about Mammoth, I mean, just to put things in context, we were dormant for 2.5 years. I mean, I was just out raising sufficient money with shareholders, basically saying, look, this money is just being raised to keep the company afloat. Myself, Richard, nobody in the company took salary for 28 months. It didn't accrue. We're that committed. I'm a 10% shareholder in the company, and that. So we neither took any money. We didn't accrue. We just maintained the property, and that. And so gold, I mean, it was hard going out and marketing gold exploration at that time, and it wasn't a compelling investment for me, so how can I make it compelling for somebody else? You know, it had come off the peaks of 1850, and it's bumped around really for the last 5 years, you know, touching on, 1400, but not being able to go over it.
Right.
And so, now we've got very close to 1300 again, 1300, 1350, and that I think really until it can punch over 1400, there's no immediacy to invest in that. And so what do I think will take it to that level? Well, look at 2018 was horrible. The Fed had said they were going to be raising interest rates, 4 or 5 times. You could have bought an ETF in the S&P 500 or the Dow and you'd have gotten a wonderful return. Well, we saw towards the end of the year that maybe that had peaked. We saw the correction in the market and I think that we're at a point in the economic cycle where there's less certainty of those kind of returns in the general stock market. Maybe earnings have peaked for a lot of companies. And so, look at 10 years into a growth phase of the economic cycle. Are we now going to run into a point in time where perhaps we're not going to see that kind of growth? And if so, what are the global countries, Feds, reserves, banks going to do to ensure that they can stimulate the economy? Because normally what it means is a reduction in interest rates. In those sort of environments, gold does better, or maybe we see quantitative easing again. But the fact of the matter is, I think there will be a need to provide some stimulus to the economy. Look, we're running off of that tax stimulus out of the U.S., right? And a tax stimulus, a lot of people would question whether it was needed. And that, but the fact is that bullet's it's left a cartridge. It's out there, and that the economy's done well on it. But where's the encore?
And so you think some of those fundamental issues that have to line up for gold to rise are starting to come into alignment?
I think they're definitely coming into place, and I think you're seeing that, when you look at some of the central banks and their buying of gold, which has kept gold, sort of even as it is in this level, it's kept gold in that level because they're looking for that insurance. As are investors, you're seeing a lot of money managers, talking about coming back into gold and that wasn't the case, a year ago.